Hey, welcome back to the Mr. Excel Netcast. I'm Bill Jelen. Well, today's question comes from Robert. Robert asks a great question, classic Excel question. Robert says, hey, I need to do both a VLOOKUP and an HLOOKUP in the same formula. So he's trying to populate this table up here, and basically he needs to look over to column A to figure out which work center, and then he needs to look up to row 3 to figure out which particular date, and his data area is down here. He has a data area with a whole bunch of work centers along the left-hand side, not the same ones necessarily or in the same order as the report he's trying to fill out, and then dates going across the top, and again, not necessarily the same order or anything like that. So he has to do the VLOOKUP to figure out which row and the HLOOKUP to figure out which column. He says, okay, how are we going to do that? Well, instead of using VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP, I want to introduce you to a function called match. But don't freak out, because match is exactly like VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP. If you know how to do VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP, you're very comfortable with match. Here's a match formula up here. And actually, let me edit this one. It says, hey, look, we want to go find this value, A4, within this green range down here. And when you find it, we don't have to specify which column to return, because it doesn't return a particular column like VLOOKUP would do. You need the comma 0 or comma false at the end, just like you would do in a VLOOKUP, to say we're looking for an exact match. And what this is going to do is it's going to look through our range and look for that A, and when it finds it, it's going to tell us that it's in the second position in that range. Okay, now, hold on for a second. Don't worry that who cares what position it's in. It's all going to make sense in a second. We're also, to simulate the HLOOKUP, going to use match again. This time the match says, hey, look, go look for this date, 10/29, within this horizontal range. Put the comma 0 at the end, which is like putting comma false at the end of the HLOOKUP. And basically what this is going to do, it's going to go through and say that, hey, 10/29 is the 9th item within the range. All right, so now we have these two relatively useless bits of information. Which row is it on and which column is it on? To put all that together, we're going to use a brand new function called index. Brand new. Well, it's been around forever, probably brand new to most of us. The index function says, hey, we have this big range down here, the blue range, and I want a particular row number and a particular column number. So here I'm just kind of building a formula that goes back and points to this row and to this column to return the 19, which is in fact the value at the intersection of 10/29 and work center A. Simple enough. Now to put all this together, we're basically going to put an index function together, and where it asks for the row number, I'm going to put the match, and where it asks for the column number, I'm going to put the other match. And I end up with one really big, large formula down here that does the trick. Now, once I've built that formula kind of off to the side, we move it up here and copy that formula throughout. Now, Robert threw one more problem at me. He said, sometimes the work center in the report is not in the data set, or sometimes the date in the report is not in the data set. So I simulated that here. There's a couple of rows where we're getting all NAs, and so to solve that, it gets pretty ugly in the old Excel. I'm going to choose the entire formula, press Control-C, and then at the beginning I'm going to put equal if is NA, open parenthesis, press Control-V to paste the formula, closing parenthesis to close the is NA, and then comma, in quotes, missing value, another comma, and then finally at the very end I have to put a closing parenthesis to close that initial if statement that I added. Copy that formula throughout the entire range, and you see that instead of NAs we get missing values. All right, so it is possible to do both a VLOOKUP and an HLOOKUP together, but what you're going to do is instead of the lookups, just use match. Match returns the position, and then finally put it all together with an index. And then if you have the horrible problem where there's some values that are missing, the formula really kind of gets out of hand here. You have to admit that anyone who comes along and just sees this formula, they pick up this spreadsheet, their head will spin. But basically build it here in 3, 4, 5 steps, and it all kind of makes sense when you see it put together bit by bit by bit. At least that's my hope. All right. Well, hey, I want to thank you for stopping by. We'll see you next time for another netcast from Mr. Excel.